What's up, guys? Trying something different again. Let's see how it works out this time. Alright, so this week I'm facing Denzel and the Maine Manaphies. Right now on the screen, I've thrown up each Pokemon on both teams so we can get a good sense here of the team matchup. You already know the Steel City Snorlax lineup. We got Mega Gardevoir, we got Kingdra, Celebi, Heatran, Murkrow, Hitmonlee, Electros, Weezing, Aromatisse, Icelgor, and Smurgle. And Denzel had the potential to bring Mega Latios, Manaphy, Crobat, Hoopa, Gallade, Florges, Jolteon, Rapidash, Barbaracle, and Goodra. But being a new coach coming in on his pre-built team, he decided to throw his own ideas into the mix, and he came up with these trades. Goodra for Donphan, Spiritomb for Hoopa, and Ferroseed for Barbaracle. So at first, I was actually pretty comfortable with the matchup, and I had already crafted a team which I thought dealt pretty well with his. But these three trades, in my opinion, changed everything. So some of you thought that the Steel City Snorlax and the new Maine Manaphy had quite the even matchup on paper. Are we serious here? Quite the even matchup? Hell no. I disagree. Looking at Denzel's new lineup, I saw a whole slew of possibilities open up for him, and I'll be the first to admit that his team definitely looks like the more threatening one, at least in this matchup. So it was time for me to scratch everything that I had previously built and hit the drawing boards again. Alright, actually, real quick before we get into the team builder, I want to throw out what I think were Denzel's top threats against my team so you can get a better sense of why I brought what I did. So the first mon that really stood out to me on his team was this Crobat right here. So aside from Heatran, Electros, and Weezing, Crobat can really rip holes in the rest of my lineup. Immediately, I was thinking either a banded set or an anti-lead set, as those two both do work against my team. Something I also had to watch out for was a Scarfed Bat, which would outspeed my entire team barring Scarfed Icelgor, and could still put in a ton of work. And the reason why I would think he would bring a Scarfed Crobat was because most people wouldn't be expecting Scarfed Crobat, which is exactly something that I would do. Um, then there's Donphan. So with Sturdy, access to rocks and rapid spin, knockoff, priority ice shard, and a powerful stab EQ, I couldn't take this lightly. Donphan is usually known for its bulk, but it can also be ran as a slow offensive tank. It has a ton of coverage moves, so slap a choice band on that thing and it becomes quite the sleeper. Another lead that I could see Denzel using is the Volt switching Jolteon, which also outspeeds my entire Unscarf team, barring a Selgor. And then I also figured that Scarf Gallade was a huge threat to my team since it has good coverage and really has the potential to hit anything on my team with pretty massive damage. So keeping all that in mind, let's hop into this team builder. All right, so the first Pokemon in my lineup is Excelgor, who is rocking the Choice Scarf with Hydration. The ability didn't really matter to me in this match, and I figured if he brought the Rain with Manaphy, Hydration might be helpful to sponge some status, so I figured why the fuck not, throw Hydration on and we'll see how it works out. He's packing Bug Buzz, Knockoff, Toxic, and Final Gambit. And actually, let's start with the moves before we hop into the EV spread. So the first two things that really stand out upon looking at this set is a Toxic Choice Scarfed Pokemon. Why bring Toxic if I'm carrying the Choice Scarf? Especially with the Crobat running around and a potential Heal Bell or Aromatherapy or whatever Florges gets. Why bring that as something filling up a slot on a Scarfed Mon? So my thing behind that was if I took care of his Crobat, if I took care of his Florges, I'd be able to Toxic something that I felt like I wouldn't be able to deal with without that residual damage, and the Choice Scarf pretty much guaranteed that I'd be able to get a Toxic off on whatever mon that is, regardless of if it's scarfed or not. The Final Gambit. Obviously, that is my nuke button. That is something that I hit when I'm facing a threat that I feel like I will not be able to take out without dealing that 187 damage, which you'll see, which you can see in my HP stat is the number for my HP. Um, I felt like Final Gambit was going to be necessary in this match. I would need that potential nuke button to really get rid of something that the rest of my team just couldn't handle. So it was very important to me to have it, but he has the Spiritomb, which if I Final Gambit and he switches in his Spiritomb, I lose my nuke button, and in my opinion, I lose the match at that point. So that is something that I need to be careful of in this match, and I can't just hit Final Gambit with the snap of my fingers. I really need to think out that plan of attack. So let's hop into the EV spread here. Obviously, I have 252 points in HP to give me that 187 HP to really make Final Gambit do the work that it needs to do. I have 140 points invested in speed with a positive speed nature to outspeed a max speed Crobat, and I think a max speed Jolteon as well, as they both have 130 base speed, I believe, which hits a max speed of 200. And then I dump the rest of my EV points into special attack so that Bug Buzz could put in as much work as it could against something like the Latios. And yeah, knockoff was just utility, and that pretty much sums up a Selgor right there. Alright, next up I have the Gardevoir. She is also carrying the Choice Scarf. So, before we get into Gardevoir, two Choice Scarf Pokemon. What is wrong with me? What is going through my head? Why am I not bringing Mega Gardevoir? A lot of you guys have been asking me that question. Why not bring Mega Gardevoir to more of my matches? It is the obvious choice. It is not the obvious choice. Mega Gardevoir is great, and it hits incredibly hard. Except it has a base speed of 100, which a base speed stat of 100, which means that it's not going to be outspeeding a lot of threats on my opponent's team without speed control, which I did not bring to this match, as you'll see. So carrying like things like a Choice Scarf, carrying things like Choice Specs really does put in the work when it needs to. And in my opinion, in this match, I needed that Scarf to really throw Denzel off guard if need be. The traceability is great, especially up against things like a Volt Absorb Jolteon or a Hydration Manaphy. The possibilities are really amazing with Trace. Let's hop into the moves. Obviously, I got Moonblast and Psyshock. Those are strong stab attacks that really put in the work against the majority of his team. Psyshock over Psykick, obviously for that Florges, which I knew would be coming. That is a especially defensive wall, and my team at first glance appears to be filled with all specially offensive threats pretty much. Then I got that HP Fire for the Ferroseed, and that Surprise Destiny Bond, which is amazing to have on any Choice Scarf Pokemon. Going into the EV spread real quick, Modest Nature to hit things as hard as I can with dumping all my EV points into special attack and into speed. Not much else to say with this one. Pretty self-explanatory. And let's hop into the next guy. Physically offensive Celebi. Do I need to say any more? Life Orb with Swords Dance, Seed Bomb, Sucker Punch, and Recover. Celebi has 100 base stats across the board. Everybody always expects it to be especially offensive, and if it's going to be packing the Swords Dance, it's going to be baton passing it. Why does it need to do any of that? It has reliable recovery. It has access to priority. It has powerful stab. It has setup. That is the making of a physical sweeper if I've ever seen one. Especially with Natural Cure, it doesn't fear the Will-O-Wisp. Why does everybody expect this thing to be especially offensive? Yes, it has great coverage. More so in its on the special side. But physically, it is a threat. I don't really need to say any more than I have about this Pokemon, other than its EV spread, the 240 points in HP, and the positive defense nature allow me to go toe-to-toe with Donphan. The 12 points in speed allow me to speed creep a Manaphy attempting to speed creep me while staying bulky as well. And this thing pretty much sets up on a majority of his team. So I don't know. It was looking good. I knew I'd be able to set up on Florges. I knew I'd be able to set up on Ferrothorn. I knew I'd be able to set up on Donphan. Jolteon, unless it's Choice Spec Shadow Ball, I could deal with. Um, I don't need to say any more on this thing. You guys already know. You've already probably seen the match anyway. So I'm just going to move on. Alright, next up we got Electros. I actually have been falling in love with this Pokemon. I always knew its potential, but I never really played around with it. I don't really like slow Mons. It's not really my play style. But this thing has been putting in the work, and its coverage is outstanding. It has 105 special attack, which is pretty good. 115 attack, which is good. And then slap an assault vest on this thing, it becomes just a tank that can hit things very hard and have that coverage to really put in some top-notch work. So as you can tell, we're assault vested, and then we're carrying that Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Giga Drain, HP Ground. So let's hop into this. Thunderbolt, stab, fuck Crobat. That thing was the bane of my existence for this match, and I was, Electros, I just wanted to utterly destroy Crobat. Flamethrower, obviously, for that Ferroseed. It's unfortunate that he has that Rapidash, because that Ferroseed Rapidash with Flash Fire really throws things for a loop. The Giga Drain for Donphan, which can't hit it with its EQ because of Levitate. And then HP Ground for that Jolteon, and for that Rapidash if she wants to come in on the Flamethrower. Let me explain my EV spread here a little bit. The 20 points invested in speed allows me to speed creep Donphan, trying to speed creep me because they both have a base speed of 50. The 218 points I threw in with the 44 defensive points. They allow it to live, I believe, 2 choice banded cross poisons from Crobat. I'm pretty sure. And then the rest of my points I threw into special attack with a positive special attack nature. And yeah, this thing is pretty much just an amazing anti-lead against the majority of his team. I was really debating for a while between Dragon Pulse and HP Ground, but I talked about this a little bit with Bill, and I decided that since this was going to be my anti-lead, I knew I was going to lead with this thing. I didn't think he'd be leading with his Latios, and I wanted to be able to hit everything that he could potentially be leading with, that I thought he'd lead with. I wanted to be able to hit that shit for super effective damage. And it was just overall, it was worth having the HP Ground for Jolteon over the Dragon Pulse for Latios. And so, without further ado, let's hop into number 5. Mixed Kingdra. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy here, bringing 2 Scarf Mons, bringing physically offensive Celebi, bringing Mixed Kingdra without any attack investment at all. but I had to throw Denzel some things that he wouldn't be expecting because on paper, in my opinion, his team was the more threatening one, and if we had played on paper, he would have won the match. So I couldn't approach my team building that way. I had to think outside the box, and this is what I kind of figured out. So bear with me for the next two Pokemon, and you'll kind of understand why. Um, I threw leftovers on this thing for a little bit of residual recovery. I threw damp on it because I don't know what on his team could explode or self-destruct in my face, but I didn't want that to happen just in case. Um, I didn't really need Swift Swim, as you'll see. Even if he did bring the rain with Manaphy, I don't think it would be necessary. Um, I just didn't want things hitting this if I could avoid it. I'm carrying Dragon Pulse, Hydro Pump, HP Fire, and Iron Head on it. Um, the Dragon Pulse and Hydro Pump, pretty obvious, strong stab moves. Deal with most of his team pretty well. And then the HP Fire for Ferroseed, I don't even know if I would need it at that point. At this point in time in the game when I'm using Kingdra, Ferroseed should be gone, hopefully. And then Iron Head, I'm carrying for the Florges because that is the only way I'm hitting Florges for any kind of damage. Um, as you can see in my EV spread, I have max special attack with a positive special attack nature. I have 244 points in HP for that bulk, and then I threw 12 points into defense. As you can see, I have a negative special defense nature and no speed investment. Not really planning on taking hits with this thing, but I did, which is why the negative special defense nature. And as for the speed, you'll understand that in just a second here. Um, let's go into my Smurgle set. So Smurgle, always going to be carrying the Focus Sash most likely, is a Smash Pass set. So I'm carrying the Spore, the Shell Smash, the Baton Pass, and the Glare. Why, why am I carrying Glare over Nuzzle? Oh, fuck. Okay, so I put Glare on this thing for Donphan, because if Smurgle was up against Donphan, I couldn't hit it with a Nuzzle to paralyze it, but I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I could Glare the Donphan. I don't need to paralyze a Donphan. I don't need speed control on a Donphan. Donphan is slow as fuck. I had no reason to, I had no reason to bring Glare over Nuzzle, and I knew that anti-lead Crobat was a huge possibility, and I knew I'd get taunted. That that was a fuck up on my part. Anyways, my plan was to whittle down Denzel's team enough to the point where I could spore something to sleep with my Smurgle, then smash pass into Kingdra, and then proceed to sweep his entire team with that +2 attack, +2 special attack, +2 speed mixed Kingdra with Iron Head. Um, the EV spread on Smurgle just gives it bulk, and the 44 points in speed allow it to outspeed his entire unscarfed team after the Shell Smash. So I hope that kind of explains my thought process and why I did what I did with my team. So without further ado, let's hop into the match. All right, it's time for the match. I guess we're going to be watching from Denzel's perspective. I have no idea why, but it's not giving me the option to switch sides. So we'll be seeing things from his point of view. um, as you can tell, you see my team up there. We already went over it, and he ended up bringing the Florges, the Crobat, the Latios, the Manaphy, the Ferroseed, and the Rapidash. So the Donphan and Jolteon leads that I was potentially expecting, those got thrown out the window. I can almost guarantee he's going to lead with Crobat here. I don't really see much else wanting to lead off the match. He sees my Smeargle. I'm expecting an anti-lead set here. To be honest, it's in my opinion that it was pretty obvious. So let's just kind of hop into this and see where it goes. All right, so the first play, he leads off with that Crobat. Now I said that I was gonna lead off with my Electros, but I knew he'd be leading off with a Crobat, and he didn't bring the Spiritomb, so I was like, oh, I can Final Gambit, don't have to worry about it. That Crobat's gonna go down. So I Final Gambit, and he lives on 3% HP. I did not realize that Crobat had a base HP stat of 85. Selgor only has base HP English stat of 80. I have no idea how I overlooked that. I was not expecting I was not expecting Crobat to live, so when I saw this, I like freaked out. I went back to over to my team builder, and I looked to make sure I had 252 points invested in my HP. Lo and behold, I did. So I couldn't figure out what was wrong until I looked up Crobat and saw his base stats, and I was like, I am so dumb. So at this point, I was like, fuck, all right, let's nuzzle this. Let's at least paralyze it. I don't even think it's going to stay in against my Smurgle anyway, fearing the nuzzle, so it's probably going to switch out into something else. So Smurgle seemed actually kind of like a safe bet. So I bring in my Smurgle, and I get taunted, and I have fucking Glare, and I don't have Nuzzle. So the reason why I stayed in here after seeing that I had Glare was that I thought that he might switch out fearing the Nuzzle, because I've brought Nuzzle Smurgle before and I've never brought Glare. And I knew that he had Taunt he knew that I knew that he had Taunt because I had already seen the Taunt. So I thought he switched out. Turns out he didn't, which gives him a free roost because I have to switch out now because I'm not carrying any attacking moves on my Smurgle. So he gets the free roost off as I bring in my Electros here. And I know he's going to switch out, and it's probably going to be in a Florges, which would be a perfect time for me to pull a double switch. But I had to play aggressively here because if he kept his Crobat in and it had Super Fang or something, I wanted to smack it with a Thunderbolt. I had to. And I knew that I could switch in my Celebi on his Florges anyway, so I just decided to click Thunderbolt here as he does switch out into his Florges, which I was expecting. And it does a pretty decent amount of damage. It does 28%, which is nothing to laugh at. But I'm not trying to stay in here because that's my strongest move on my Electros, and it could just wish stall me as it kills me slowly with Moonblast. So I was like, alright, fuck this. I've had enough of that already, so I'm switching out into my Celebi. And we're going to try to set up early game here. So Celebi comes out, and Florges sets up a Calm Mind. And I'm like, alright, it's a Calm Mind set. I can deal with that because I have that bulk. So I set up a Swords Dance as he Moonblasts me to the face and does 50% damage to me. Now I'm at 51% damage. I don't want to risk a high roll here, so I'm just going to go for the recover, as I think he sets up another Calm Mind, which he does, and I know that I can take at least one Moonblast from a +2 Florges. So I set up another Swords Dance, and he knocks me down to 42%, and I was like, alright, at this point I need to attack in. I don't know if it's going to knock out the Florges. I don't know if it's a defensive set with Calm Mind, having that max HP, max defense investment. At that point, I knew it would be a roll from Seed Bomb, but it was like 50% chance, and I needed that momentum. And even if it didn't kill the Florges, it would do enough damage for me to come in and revenge kill it later, or kill it then. depending on if he stayed in with it or switched it out. So I go for the Seed Bomb, and it totally demolishes the Florges. And things are looking good for me here because he doesn't know that I'm a bulky offensive variant of Celebi, and he doesn't know that I have Sucker Punch yet. So he brings in the Rapidash, who turns out was choice banded with Quick Attack. And depending on how things played out here, it could have been different. If he had Quick Attacked into my Celebi, um, I wouldn't be able to Sucker Punch him because Sucker Punch is only +1 priority, as is Quick Attack, and Rapidash was definitely faster because I had like no speed investment on my Celebi. So, and I think Rapidash is a base 105, whereas Celebi is only base 100 speed, so it would have outsped anyway. Um, Quick Attack would have only been doing about 17% damage, but even still, I would have had to switch out my Celebi after the first one. So that could have changed the game right there. But instead, since he doesn't know I'm packing a Sucker Punch, I'm pretty sure he went for the Flare Blitz. I never found out because I go for the Sucker Punch, and I totally destroy his Rapidash. That thing is wiped off the face of the map, and he brings in his Ferrocia and protects, and I use that chance to recover. And at that point, like, the game is over for me because I know that Sucker Punch is going to be dealing with the rest of his team. He could have stalled out my Sucker Punch rather effectively with a mixture of protect, and he could have taunted me with Crobat. I don't know if Seed Bomb would have killed the Crobat, so I think Taunt would have been a safe move for him. And then he could have gone for the Roost and just really stalled out my Sucker Punch PP. But instead he goes for attacks against my Celebi for the rest of the match, and I end up knocking everything out with the Sucker Punch, taking a nice 5-0 victory over the Maine Manaphys. And Celebi really put in the work here, and I never had to smash pass into Kingdra. So my plans, like, I knew that physical Celebi would be a problem for him because I knew he wouldn't expect it. I didn't expect it to work as well as it did, and I still had that Kingdra in the back just in case, along with the Scarf Destiny Bonding Gardevoir. But turns out I didn't need any of that, which was probably luck on my part. But I will take luck any day of the week because Pokemon is a lot of RNG luck. So that was a good match. Denzel, your team really had me worried there. You have a very powerful team, and I expect big things from you in the future. Welcome to the league. Everybody else, can't wait to have our match in the future, and good luck to everybody else in week 4 and the upcoming weeks. With that, this is Recon Jack signing off.